I'm on the phone. I'm on the line here with Mr. Gary Devine, and searching over the last couple of days for a way to describe this guest of ours on the show this week. The best way I could come up with is to say that Gary was in a very dark place. He set out on a journey, a remarkable journey, and managed to turn his life around, to use a cliche. And that in itself, those two statements alone would make Gary an interesting and worthwhile individual to have in conversation. But the third stage of my description is what really makes Gary interesting, because Gary has not just turned his own life around, but he has taken and indeed made every opportunity possible to spread the knowledge and to tell people about his journey and to empower anyone that needs this knowledge. Gary, you're very, very welcome. It's a pleasure to talk to you. I hope that introduction did you justice. It's as I say, a pleasure to talk to you. I'll start off briefly, if you're okay with that. I just want to talk a little bit about your background, what led you into the stuff you're doing at the moment. As I say, you came from a dark place. Let's go back 5-6 years ago. Your life was very, very different. What would your life have been like back 2003, 2004?
Hello, Michael.
Yes.
And thanks for the opportunity
to you're more than welcome.
Let your listeners know about Thamkrabok and the work of Temple Detox. It felt like I was being put on a pedestal there. It's the last thing I want with the intro.
Yeah, well, I know that. I gather from interviews that, that's not really what you want to do, but nonetheless, I just...
Yeah, no, indeed, I appreciate it, and thank you. There's a lot of effort goes into this, and so I do, and I really appreciate the support the Irish people are giving me, and yourselves for picking up on this story. It's a difficult task. Myself, it was 2005 when I discovered Thamkrabok Detox north of Bangkok. It's just about 2 hours north of Bangkok, so it's very accessible. But I was in, as you rightly described, a very dark place, and literally Thamkrabok provided the light I needed. I was trapped with on a particular drug, methadone, and taking a lot of prescription drugs, which is a huge problem, growing problem in this country and worldwide. But I was spiritually broken from the methadone and heroin I'd been abusing for 20 years. I had a 4-year break. I got clean in the 90s, and I was 4 years clean, and I took my sobriety for granted, and I slipped, relapsed, and fell back into a terrible trap, and the whole cycle of doctors and prescription drugs, and by the grace of whatever it was, in 2005, in October 2005, I went online, and
it really was just a sudden thing, wasn't it? I'm familiar, very, 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 very scarce familiarity, but one night there was just something changed, and you suddenly, as you say, went online. Where were you?
I recall this with fondness when I think of it. I was in a laundromat in Renla, and it's still open. I smile as I go past it these days, because I recall it's. I've never forgotten where drugs had left me, and the state of mind I was in at that point. But I was in doing my laundry, and there was a few computers there, and I just put in drug detoxes abroad, and came across the Thamkrabok site, and within 3 weeks I was in the monastery, beginning my detox. And
wow! And again, we'll be giving all the information at the end, and we'll be putting it on the website. TempleDetox.ie is one of the main first sites that somebody could go to and they get the information. You went to this and you found out, presumably for the first time, that it was possible to leave the country, to go abroad, go to this monastery, and enter this program, which can run up to 24 days. What made you think it was possible? Okay, first of all, there's money involved in getting there. Did you have the cash to hand, and how much was needed, and how did you go about making this idea a reality?
I had all those sort of questions came up. I was living day to day, totally unmanageable. That's where drugs leave you. So I was there was a lot of praying went in. A lot of prayer went into trying to come up with a solution. It was 5 years ago, as I say, and at that point it was €1,050 for the ticket. I had to come up with a return ticket, and it was basically about €250 for the 3 to 4 weeks. You're allowed to stay for a month. In fact, I stayed 24 days. So that is the sort of the cost I had to come up with then.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and a donation. Then there's a donation. Most people try and give a donation of €200.
Okay,
to
and
the
that's
monastery.
that's
So
kind
it
of
was that sort of figure. It was what I was faced with. The other realization, even 5 years ago. So it's a lot worse now. I was looking at if I wanted to try and attempt to get clean again in Ireland. It was my options were Beaumont Hospital on the north side of Dublin, or Cherry Orchard on the south. Beaumont on the north side and Cherry Orchard on the south side. They're the only detoxes. And Father Peter McVerry, who I was very happy to meet a few weeks ago, he's doing tremendous work for the last 30 years, as people know, your listeners will be familiar.
yes.
He's got 7 or 8 beds in a detox unit, and that's it for Ireland. We've got, I think it's estimated about 14,500 addicts.
Yes, Shane,
You could
here
probably
at Irish
multiply
side,
that by-
yeah, he was giving me those figures from his research, and yeah, it's staggering when you put it in the context of how much help is available inside Ireland. Not in any way taken away from, as you say, there are some people doing amazing work in the country, and we'll come back to that again.
Sure. Well, what your listeners that are in this dilemma are addicted are going to be very familiar with the reality as well. These detoxes are faced with a huge problem that they are barely detoxes anymore, because the people that are going into them are being brought in to be stabilized with the methadone. This drug is highly addictive, very difficult drug to manage, and with the addicts buying tablets and the prescription drugs they're on, they are bringing them into what were detox units to be stabilized, just to bring them down, reduce them. So nothing's been dealt with now. Where I'm concerned, and I don't, as a recovering addict, and I've got a lot of clarity 5 years down the road. I've studied addiction now as well in the last year. But the reality is, they're not dealing with the methadone and prescribed drugs they're giving. It's not addressing the addiction.
Yeah, and it's not detoxing in the sense that you're not clearing or cleansing. You're simply substituting one thing for another.
So this is where Thamkrabok then, as I was just saying to a father of a young girl I'm hoping to support in the next few months, what's the big attraction for me, and why I'm on board to try and facilitate and coordinate and help Irish people. This amazing monastery in Thailand it's physical and spiritual. The spiritual thing is where it isn't being addressed anywhere in the world. It's mainly cognitive therapy. So they're not that, and this is being. Thamkrabok is going to be put on the world stage in the next month. A friend of Thamkrabok, Vince Cullen, is representing Thamkrabok in California with the Buddhist Recovery Network. This is new to me. It's new. It's the first convention they're having, and they're going to announce Thamkrabok as an alternative for treatment.
Okay.
Because they've made a connection with, or it's proving over the last 10, 15 years, Buddhism and meditation is proving to be, it's obvious even to myself now, with the meditation in particular, is helping with addiction because it slows the mind down. The addict's minds is racing with the damage, from all the drugs.
Yes, I can imagine, yes.